Oh, we're live on YouTube now.
Yeah, we ready?
I'm ready.
I need to bring this closer because some people may chime in.
May or may not.
Yeah. So, all right, we ready?
Yep. 3, 2, 1.
Check.
Microphone check.
All right. We are live.
Oh, hold on one sec.
Yep. False start. This is the Life on Life's Terms podcast, and I am Tom Robinson, and we are not affiliated with any 12-step programs, although we're big fans.
Yes. My name is Chris Mandeville, and we are here at a New Way Recovery Center in Quincy, Mass, on Quincy Ave. Lots of resources here, and they are ever so gracious to let us use this space to provide this podcast. So
Fantastic
thank you,
people.
A New Way.
Thank you.
So if you like the podcast and you want to get the podcast all the time, you can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play,
Apple
Podcast. You can go to LOLTERMS.com, and we have all of our podcasts on there.
Yep, and you can also subscribe through the site.
Yes,
Absolutely. If you're Android, you have to download a player on Google Play, and then you can search us, the Life on Life's Terms podcast. And the audio podcast is great because you can listen to it anytime, commuting, working out, all that good stuff, and we could use the support.
Yes.
So.
And if anyone is interested in sharing their story and would like to be on the podcast, we ask that you message us personally or through the page. We can get messages through the page.
Yep.
And you don't have to be in recovery. We want people who may have lost a sibling or a husband or wife or
the parents of someone who's been through the ringer.
Yes.
And come out the other side.
Anyone that is touched by addiction or alcoholism or of any kind.
People, treatment professionals are welcome
Yes.
to come on and share their opinions.
Yes. Doctors, first responders.
Yep.
Everyone is affected by addiction. So we want to hear from everyone because we want to come at this from all angles.
Yeah, we got to get opposing sides so we have these opinions back and forth. You know what I mean? We got to get another microphone.
Get a little debate going here someday.
Screaming, yelling.
Yeah.
Chairs flying. No.
It's all about the love.
It's all love.
And tonight we have Angelica, and the way I met her was actually through Facebook. I seen her post something about a mom's group that she started, and I hit her up and asked if she knew about any dad's groups, and she was like, "No, but you can start one."
What a novel concept!
Yes. And it just started from there, and I started seeing her posts, and they were very inspirational, and I seen a couple things that I thought would be a very good, powerful topic on this podcast. So if you're a mom out there and you've struggled, I think you're going to want to listen to this. So we're going to turn it over to Angela, and she's going to share with us.
Angelica.
All right.
Angelica.
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so this is a little weird for me because I've never shared my experience, strength, and hope in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is different.
Less intimidating, though, right?
It's only weird for the first 5 minutes.
Okay, cool. Growing up for me, I never felt like I was pretty enough. I never felt like I was smart enough. I never felt like I fit in. I can remember being in the 2nd grade and walking through the lunch line and looking at all the other children around me and wondering how they believed that they deserved to eat this food and learn with a pen. And I say this story because in the 2nd grade, my self-worth was so low that I didn't even think that I deserved to eat food and write with a pen. And
in the 2nd grade.
Second grade. Yep, at Hedge School.
That actually occurred to you, how are these people all taking this for granted? Is that
it was
the feeling?
How do they think that they deserve to eat this food and learn with a paper and pen? And I don't even know why I felt that way, but that's how I felt.
Wow, that's wild.
So how was home life at that age?
I was raised by a single father who was in recovery. He did the best that he could. Definitely a lot of yelling and stuff like that. But I didn't have a mom growing up because of her addiction, and so yeah, life at home wasn't the typical mother, father, family. It was me, my dad, and my brother.
Yep.
He was in recovery and in college and raising 2 kids on his own, so you can imagine how stressful that was.
Yes,
you know?
and I would say back then the steps and recovery weren't as
prevalent
as they are now.
Right.
It's a lot of dry drunks,
Right.
as they
Right.
call it. Like,
Right.
yeah, you got to go to meetings, you got to do this, and that does nothing for anger,
Right.
you know,
Right.
or how to raise
Right.
kids, or how to
Right.
deal with your feelings.
Right.
So,
Well,
Absolutely.
I mean, it works for some people.
yes,
probably.
yes,
I
for
guess some are sicker than others.
Yep.
You know.
So and I tell that story because, you know, when I first picked up a substance at 12 years old, I finally felt like I was okay. I finally felt comfortable in my skin. I felt like I had finally found the thing that I've been looking for my entire life.
Yep.
And I ran with that. Started with, you know, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, hanging out with older guys. I like to talk about that as well because, you know, growing up with just like a single father and not having that motherly figure in my life, I noticed that I looked to older men to make me
Yep.
feel good about myself and
validation, identity.
Yep. And they told me that I was beautiful, and they told me that I was pretty, and I loved that, you know. TMI, too much information if I share that at 12 years old, like I lost my virginity to a 16-year-old, you know.
Yep.
And I you know, the drugs got harder, and I just hung out with guys, and then it went from using drugs to selling drugs. And at 16 years old, I was arrested for possession, trafficking, attempt to distribute, and conspiracy to violate the controlled substance law.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Really?
At
Holy
16?
cow.
At 16, so I was charged as a minor.
Did you have to get a lawyer? Get a
My
big-time lawyer?
father told me my father told me to plead guilty and take whatever was coming.
Yep.
And
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't listen to my father.
Good,
but,
good. I hope you. I hope
Yeah.
you didn't.
but the
'Cause that was me. Like,
right,
but most of the time it was because I was sick.
right,
It's like
Yeah.
probation, guilty. Yep, get me out of here so
Yeah.
I can go get high
right,
or
Right.
off E.
right.
Yeah, but that's not probation. That's juvenile detention for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Tend to distribute. Ugh.
So 16.
Ugh.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was selling drugs at 16, but what was it? What were you selling at the time?
Cocaine, lots and lots.
Maybe acid, weed.
Right.
But you know,
So
like
you was,
like
you
yourself.
was selling a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
So
that's,
I came from a single parent home
That's
raised
bad.
by a mom. You know, it was just mom.
Mhm.
And like I shared a few minutes ago, at the age of 13, I got a girl pregnant. She was older than me, and you know, like I obviously I had no idea what I was doing.
right.
You know, but seeking that validation. Mom was always working, never home. It was me and my younger sister, you know, and like 12 years old, smoking weed, drinking, you know, like not stuff that you should be doing at that age.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
when when the parents ain't around and they gotta
Right.
be, you know, they gotta
Mhm.
work, they gotta go to school, whatever,
Mhm.
you know, we're afforded with a lot of time to ourselves and a lot of bad decisions we can make.
Right.
So
Right.
Was this all taking place in Plymouth?
Plymouth. Yeah.
I
Plymouth.
went to high school in Plymouth, and we used to like jump down on the rock and grab all the change and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Oh yeah, I did that when I was little too. Yep. My brother did.
Squirt
really.
the tourists with squirt guns and stuff.
Yeah. So
so you didn't plead guilty.
I didn't plead guilty, but the judge looked at me and saw everybody that I was affiliated with and associated with, and he was like, "We're just gonna lock you up until you're 18." So I was 16, and then by the time I finally got in front of the judge, I was 17. So it was a year. So I did a year in juvie.
Okay.
Yeah. What was that like?
And
Hell.
where was that?
In Roxbury and Dorchester
Oh, yeah.
and Lakeville.
Oh, in Lakeville.
Lakeville, right.
From
The
Roxbury to
Random.
Dorchester to Lakeville.
Well, yeah, right. And so the judge gave me 90 days. That's what was my sentence. But the first 6 months didn't count because I was like in holdings. And then Lakeville was the 90 days. It was like a nice house with bunk beds.
Oh, really?
And it was like a sober house or a halfway house. That's what it was like.
Oh.
But I didn't know that then.
So you were in legit detention centers
Yes.
awaiting your 90 days.
Yes.
And then when you got to your 90 days, it was like cushy.
Yeah.
Wow,
'Cause it was
well,
Lakeville.
That's pretty good.
We
That's
climbed
good.
trees and did all kinds of stuff outside. It was cool.
And then after that, you stayed sober and lived happily ever after.
And then she ran and then she ran around like, I've been to jail.
Right, right.
And that was your identity.
Literally.
I'm a drug dealer.
Right. No, my identity was I took the rap from my boyfriend, and he didn't have to go to jail.
Okay.
And I'm
So
that
you were
girl.
solid.
I was a solid,
Yes.
loyal chick.
Yes, there
Right.
you go. There it is.
Wow.
Right.
That's
There it is.
intense.
Yeah. And as soon as I got out, I started sniffing Percocet and right back to it.
Oh.
Literally, like, I remember the day. Like, getting out and going right back. Didn't, like, nothing happened.
Now, during this time, had you ever thought that you had a drug problem?
Yeah, I knew I was a drug addict since very beginning.
Okay.
First time I smoked marijuana, they were trying to take the pipe out of my hand, and they were like, I mean, everyone in Plymouth knew, like, this girl is a drug addict. I was called a drug addict at, like, 13 years old. It was a known fact.
Yeah.
And
What about drinking?
drinking, yep, I drank. I blackout drunk.
Blackout.
So was your dad known in the town as well?
Yes.
So
Yep. And
apple don't fall too far from the tree,
and that's what he would always say.
even if you kick it across the yard.
Right.
It's
Right.
just
Right.
it happens.
Yep.
You know. So you probably already had that name just because of your dad.
Right. And my whole, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just how it is, especially a town like Plymouth.
Right.
You know, there's not much going on. Well, maybe then there wasn't. Now
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah, now
Now
there's
there's lots of stuff
Plymouth, even when I was growing up in Plymouth, it's a pretty violent place. A lot of fights.
Yeah, a lot of drunks.
Look, my friends were like punk rock kids, and you know, people would jump out of their cars and beat the crap out of my friends.
Yeah, yeah. Just because they wore
Just
different
'cause,
clothes.
yeah, they wore different.
They weren't
clothes.
wearing Sperry's and
Right.
Izods.
Yeah.
You know.
And IROC would pull up and
Yeah,
You
an
know?
Ira. Blair and Ario Speedwagon. Okay,
Sorry.
so back
You're good.
back to you.
I don't. Where was I? Oh,
90 days.
Lakeville,
You
you
finished
were
the
in
90
when
days
I
in Lakeville.
first went into Brockton, because I started in Brockton and then it went to Dorchester and Roxbury, but I had detoxed in the room and I had no clue what was going on, and I was so sick for so long, and I was like, I'm never gonna do pills again. And then as soon
this
as
is
I
on
got out,
perks?
I did. Yeah, because I was doing perk 30s then, because that's what was out.
Yeah.
Remember?
And you, like
OC 80s. Yep.
so you do these 30s and you have no idea. You get
Hooked.
put away
Yep.
and you're like, "Oh my god, what do I have, a cold? What do I got, the flu?"
Yeah. They put me in a padded room. They knew I was detoxing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and they just put me in a padded room, and it was horrible.
Padded room.
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, the only time I ever lived in Plymouth, it was at 26 Long Pond Road. And same thing happened to me. They put me in a big giant unit and I kicked like kung fu.
Right. It
know?
wasn't padded.
No.
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 She was a minor.
Exactly.
The minor in the padded room.
Yeah, so that sucked. That sucked.
Yeah.
Sucked.
I bet you remember every minute of
I
it.
do.
Yeah.
I do, yep.
As do I.
And then I got out and I just went right back to the same life. And
Yeah.
did the same exact thing, and
Because
Like
you had
nothing
you had
happened.
already lost the power of choice.
right.
I remember. I
Right.
remember. I was kicking, and I got arrested, and I was locked in the back of a van with this dude. We were going to Nashua Street, and he was handcuffed like this, and my arm was around his. Now I was 170 pounds, and right now I'm 216. Right, so I was real thin, and he was like jacked, and he kept jerking me around. I was like ready to throw up, and it was the worst time of my life. We were gonna give you this slimy sandwich when you get there. Oh God,
Right?
like I can't eat that. Anyway,
Okay. So now you go right back to it.
Yep, I go right back to it, and at 21, I got pregnant, and I kind of used a little bit Suboxone, mostly, not prescribed. Once in a while, wasn't addicted. when the baby, I went in for an emergency C-section, which is what I prayed for, because the whole time that I was pregnant, I just wanted to get high, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like,
wow.
oh, I really hope that I have to have a C-section so I can get Percocets, you know?
Yep.
And
Already
Yeah.
planning the relapse.
Right,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it was already
before the baby was even here.
before the baby was probably even like
Yeah.
there, you
Yeah.
know? And so that happened. What I prayed for, I literally prayed for that. And I had an emergency C-section, and I remember I don't know if they knew about they must have known about my past, but she like held up a Perk 5 and she was like, is this going to be okay for you? I'm like, yes, it's going to be fine. I promise. Like, this is great. And this is fine. And I took it, and then I took all the money that I had saved up and bought a ton of Perk 30s. And so then my addiction took off, and I was
Now this is with a child.
with a child. Yep. You know, I was staying in in the basement. It was like a built room, you know, like it was nice down
Finished
there.
basement?
And we had
Of your dad's house?
of the father,
Oh,
my
the
daughter's
father's
father's
house.
parents'
Now
house.
was he older than you?
Not by much, 2 years.
Okay.
And I had actually been living with them since, I'm going back a little bit, but I moved in with them when I was like 16. And then,
So they went through the whole court process as well.
eventually, yes. But the thing about is that we were all addicts and alcoholics.
so
and
everyone
all-
was involved.
Everyone, yep. When
I see.
the family was arrested for selling drugs, like this
Oh,
whole
so it was
thing.
just
Yeah.
full on raid.
Yeah, literally. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So you were those neighbors.
Yep. Yep. Actually, I was in treatment when the family got arrested. I was in treatment that time. But yeah, basically, so what I grew up with was I grew up in a home raised by a single father in recovery, moved into a home where we used drugs and sold drugs together. And that was acceptable. And
Yeah.
that was my life.
Yeah.
And so when my daughter was born, I went, you know, I was pretty much not clean through my pregnancy, but just once in a while I would use, you know, and just like a little bit of a Suboxone. And then when I had her, I started using and
Off and running.
off and running. Yep. She wasn't even she was a month old with the first DCF phone call that we got. And then they came in, investigated. I was asked to take a drug test. Of course, I faked that.
Yeah.
So I
Like
passed.
any good addict would.
Yep.
I was actually talking about that not that long ago. I had my son. DCF would call, say, hey, we're on the way. Okay, Tyler, you got to pee in this cup for your doctor so I can stash it under the sink.
Yep.
So I could put it in the cup for the DCF lady.
Yep. So I made them go away that time, and then some crazy things happened, and what was going on at this time? You know, I was working at a restaurant, Isaac's. I was drinking an awful lot, and the father was out using. He wasn't living with me at this time, and the grandparents had asked me to go to a sober house, and that they would take the baby at night, and I would go to the sober house during the day, and I did that. And then they kept trying to get me to sign guardianship paperwork. I wouldn't do it. Then my uncle passed away. I went to his funeral, and I got court documents that they had went in and filed for emergency custody. So that's where all of it started with the DCF.
Yeah.
So DCF is now in my life, and I'm not getting clean. I'm in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yeah. And like everyone's like, oh, DCF sucks. DCF. If you want to do the right thing, they will help you a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
more than you can even imagine.
I mean, my relationship with them now is like they're calling me and sending clients to my
Yeah.
mom's group. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Asking
exactly.
me to speak at mom's groups that they run, you know? So,
Yeah.
like, it's totally different now. But back then I hated them, and I thought they were just out to take my baby, and I was, I was a mess. And
You were angry.
angry, yep. I blamed
Resentful.
everybody else because...
Everyone but you.
Right. Well, because, they taught me how to use drugs. They taught me how to sell drugs. It's all their fault.
So you were going to use at them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
Been
yeah,
there.
I ran with that for a long time. And I ended up leaving the father, going on an even crazier run, getting up with another guy, getting pregnant with another baby. And I'm on Suboxone at this point when I got pregnant, and the doctor told me that I need to be on Subutex or methadone. It was detrimental to the baby's health not to be on anything, so I took Subutex during my pregnancy. Definitely shot heroin during my pregnancy. Baby was born addicted, and at the hospital, the plan was that she was going to come home with me, and then DCF called me 2 days before my release and said that they weren't willing to let me go home with the baby, but if I could find somewhere else to go with the baby, I could bring the baby home, because I had, passed all my drug tests and done everything I needed to do. But the father, they didn't know his sobriety date, and so
was he sober?
No.
Yeah, so he didn't know it either.
Right. But neither was I, because I was abusing Johnny's, and I was on the Suboxone, and I was,
But they were not testing for that
right.
stuff,
So they thought I was like this good, and I ran with that and used that for a long time. I was the one, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe they did this to me. But really, like, in reality, looking back now, I was in no place to take care of a child.
And it's funny because they say, oh, it's detrimental to the baby. Not so much true.
Right, I know somebody that was...
Because I know a friend who I actually seen her name pop up here, and they told her that, and she was like, no.
Yeah, well, nope. I have a friend who nobody knew anything about.
What's detrimental to the baby?
Coming off of
something
Suboxone.
while you're pregnant.
They want you to go on to something else, right? It's all about money, but...
Yeah.
So I know someone that was exactly pregnant at the exact same time I was, doing everything that I was doing, and they just stopped and never told nothing, and the baby is beautiful, fine, perfect.
Her daughter's gorgeous.
Right.
Nothing wrong with her whatsoever.
Wicked smart.
Yeah.
Wicked smart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
so
everything happens for a reason.
So
it's weird.
If that's truly a known falsehood and a lie, that is a slimy, evil.
Yeah, because now you have this infant that's born addicted that doesn't have to be.
Right. And they're telling you that it's detrimental to their health, but then that either way, you know what I mean? Either way, it's detrimental to their health.
Yeah.
And they're going to file they're like, well, they told me they were going to file a 51A if I detox myself. And I was like, you're going to file a 51A anyway when the baby's born addicted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so the baby was born addicted.
So what's a 51A?
51A is when DCF finds you neglecting or abusing your child.
Child endangerment or neglect.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, so the baby was born, and I never got to take the baby home. And a few weeks later, I got an opportunity to go to Stepping Stone in Fall River.
Oh, yep.
And they were they were gonna send the baby with me, and I went there. And I was on Suboxone, and I was abusing my Johnnies, and I was an absolute mess. And I lasted about a couple weeks, if that. And I called DCF, and I called DCF, and I told them to come get her because I couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't want to take her out with me, and I wasn't going to stay clean. So they came, and they got her, and I gave them everything that she owned, and I literally handed them my baby and walked away. And
that speaks to the power of addiction.
Right.
Yes.
That's what keeps me, and I don't even have dark hours about it anymore, but in my darkest hours I would just respect the power of it. It will take you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you don't do the right thing.
And I we can tell that it's upsetting you. But you made the right decision. Even though it was based on self.
Right.
It was because you wanted to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah,
right.
And you weren't really you were doing it against your own will. You were going to do it, and you knew it.
Right. I wasn't in my right state of mind.
But to take that baby through that when
would have been worse.
She didn't have to be.
Right.
So now this is the second.
This is the second baby. Yep.
So the grandparents grandparents got the first one, and now this one you turned over to DCF, and
then I've tried to fight for a year for her, and I went to my visits, and I was sitting in a foster care review one day. It went from At first, it was reunification because I was trying, and then it went to adoption. And I was sitting in a foster care review, and I was looking at this woman that had been taking care of my baby since she was 7 weeks old, which means that she was up with her all hours of the night while she was detoxing. My daughter was in at least 12 different homes in 10 days because nobody could handle her. So they put her in an intensive foster care, and that's where she was at 7 weeks old. She went into this home, and this woman.
So no time in NICU at all?
Yeah, she was in NICU for
And what's that?
a couple weeks.
Neonatal intensive care unit.
I see. So
Babies.
that's like the hospital.
Right,
Yes.
and they let us
Okay.
stay there with her while she was there.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
And
But it does cause, colic and
oh yeah,
just
no
like
sleeping,
us, like
Yeah.
we kicked open, we're
Colicky.
babies,
Right.
we
Big
cry about
time.
it.
right. They said,
Now this is a real infant that can't even tell you what's going on,
Yeah.
right.
So very, very difficult situation to be in.
Right, and I
Um,
was so messed. Like I didn't even have a feeling about it. Like when
Right.
she was born, I didn't even feel connected to her. I didn't even feel it was. I wonder if, because, my body or something knew that she was never gonna be with me. If I disconnected from her, but I remember looking at her and not even having. It was nothing like my first. It was
yeah.
I was just
Well,
there was nothing there.
as an addict, I did it with my son. It was like he's in the way.
Right,
I can't do what I want to do because of him.
right.
So
That's interesting, though. A mother has instinctive
right,
feelings.
it's primal. It's
That's
But when you're
way
on a ton of Suboxone,
right. So
and
you're blocked
Johnny's,
off. You're blocked off.
you
as
literally are fogged up and nothing. You don't. I could literally look people in the eyes on that stuff and be like, I don't give a about my children, and I'm going to get high.
well.
And I would look you in the eyes and do that, and then I would go do that, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Just straight suicidal craziness.
Every decision based on self.
right.
Right.
Regardless of how it's going to affect anyone.
Okay, so now your second child is
Yep.
taken.
And she's been in foster care since she was 7 weeks old. She's gonna be at this point. She was probably almost 2, and I was sitting in the foster care review and I was looking at this woman and I thought, wow, I wish she was my mom. And I just knew at that moment that what I had to do was give my little girl to her because I was sober at that moment, and I just remember being like, all I ever want for my kids is better, more
Mhm.
than I had. And so I remember talking. Everyone was just in tears that day, and I just was like, listen, I'm gonna give her to you. And then I cried and I apologized that I wasn't able to be everything that she needed me to be, and then that's what I did. I signed the papers, and we went into the courtroom, and the judge asked me if anyone was making me do this, and I said no, and then they said her name, and they said that she will be a ward of the state until the age of 18, and I lost it, and I left the courthouse in tears, and I stayed clean for a tiny bit, and then I ended up relapsing again.
I mean, something like that, and
Right,
not being introduced into any type of recovery.
right. I had
It's
no
now-
solution.
now as far as-
absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, a ward of the state. So the woman that was taking care of her wasn't allowed to keep her, or
No, she adopted her, but
Okay.
she's still a ward of the state. They're the adoptive parents.
the state is.
They adopted her, but she's a ward of the state till she's 18. So I'm guessing that means if anything was to happen to her, she would be back in the state.
So
Custody.
back to foster care,
Right.
foster home, foster
Right.
home.
I'm guessing because
Yeah.
that's exactly what the judge said that day.
Yeah, my sister went through something like that with her daughter, but the woman that they fostered her with was amazing.
Yeah, this woman's amazing.
Like taught her how to surf. Like
Yeah, my
was a
daughter's
single
already
woman.
been. Yeah, my daughter's already been to Cancun.
like
Well,
had
that's
an
what occurred
amazing
to me.
life.
That's what just occurred to me was I was my heart breaks for you. The child is probably okay, you know.
Not always.
Not always, but it's possible. But
case,
you were under, the influence of this fucking evil disease, and you just the self-hatred that brings on a person is
but also knowing that you
heavy.
wanted better for your daughter, and
you
probably
should feel proud about that.
yes, probably the first unselfish decision you made.
Yeah.
Right.
Although you may have thought it was selfish, it wasn't.
Right. So
time,
let's say
that's
this.
right.
Let me say this, because half of me wanted more for her, and the other half of me was sick of DCF and dealing with their crap.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
there was absolutely selfish motives behind it. Obviously, I wanted her to be with her because she was amazing, and I wish she was my mom. So why wouldn't I give that to my baby, right?
Right.
But also, I was just I had been dealing with DCF for 6 years.
Like,
at this
get out
point.
of my
Like,
life. I just want to get
literally,
high.
Yeah, here you go. Take the baby. You're fine. I lost. You win. You know.
Yeah.
That's like my attitude at that point. I just gave up.
Yeah. Defeated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yep. And so the paperwork, so that happened, and then I got, I was using for a long time, not a long time, a couple weeks, and my family ended up sectioning me, and then I got out of my section, and I was gonna get high one more time, and it was gonna be the best 3 days of my life. And
Yeah, because you don't want to catch a habit. You're only going to do it for 3 days.
right, it's gonna be the best 3 days of my life. I
Best
had
3
my
days of
food
your
stamp
life.
card.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Hit up my sister. It was Halloween night. I was like, I need my food stamp card. She flipped out on me. I didn't even care. I was like, whatever, dude. Give
It's
me
my
food-
EBT
give me
card.
my food stamp. Absolute insanity. I look at it now. I'm like, oh god.
I know.
And yeah. So it lasted 2 days, and I was in a hotel room in Taunton, and both.
Oh,
my,
yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Taunton. Yep. Both my hands were blown up, both my feet and both my arms, and I was literally sitting in a bathroom just looking at myself in the mirror like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get here? This is disgusting. And
Both your hands were blown up?
yeah,
Yeah,
I was
'cause-
shooting crack all night
In your hands.
in my hands, in my arms, and in my feet. And
Because, you're doing, like, dope's like, bang, okay, you're good for a while.
Oh, I know.
Crack, coke, you're like,
Coke
bang,
every
bang,
20
bang, bang.
minutes.
Right.
So gross.
all night
Yeah.
long. All night long.
I only did it one night, and I never did it again.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
All night long, and
Smoke that shit,
it was and it was it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and
Loser birds
guy
coming out.
that I was-
Loser.
the guy that I was getting high with was sleeping, and I'm like, why is he sleeping? Like, this is
'Cause
crazy.
Loser.
Because he probably had dope hidden from you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why he was
Yep.
sleeping. He had landing gear that he didn't share.
Wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah. He's like, she can have the rest. I'm done.
Yeah,
Yep.
I got like that.
right.
Oh.
And I was in the hotel room, and the infomercial was on. It was a fisherman infomercial, and I just like remember the smell. I remember everything that day, and I like was literally crying out to God. And I was just like, God, like, please give me the strength to call somebody to help me, because I could literally call anybody to get everything that I think that I need to like be okay, The drug dealer, I only had to wait 8 more hours for the drug dealer, and I couldn't even hold on anymore. And I called my sister, and she came and picked me up, and checked back into the psych section 12 at the Plymouth Hospital. It was Jordan at the time, into the locked unit, and told them I wanted to kill myself because when you section 12 yourself, you don't have to go to group, and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then, so
Yeah.
that's what I always do. I always section 12 myself, and
You can just isolate.
yeah, you don't
Lay
have
in
to talk
bed.
to anybody.
Yeah.
Eat whatever you want. Take meds, whatever.
Yeah.
And when I was there,
That's a pro tip right there.
right. That's crazy.
But imagine that.
Right.
Like, I know what I got to do.
Right.
I just got to
I'm
say
not going
I'm
to-
crazy.
I was literally no. Just say you want to kill yourself or
Yeah.
somebody else,
Yeah.
and then you're doing a 3-day, and then you can sign yourself out if you want, but you don't. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I went there, and some people did. My sister had filled out an application for me for the Plymouth House in Plymouth, New Hampshire. Some people had been talking to me about it while I was using, like the week prior. I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. I'll go.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I was like, crazy.
I'll think about it.
I remember being in Middleborough, and they're like calling me to talk about it. I'm like, on cocaine, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, can you hold on a second? just 1 minute.
Yeah. Literally.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So they had done some work, and then my sister's like, you just have to call them and you do an interview over the phone. I'm like, fine, okay. So I did the interview over the phone, and they were like, yep, you're in. And I got an $8,000 scholarship to go to the Plymouth House in Plymouth, New Hampshire.
Yep.
And my sister came and picked me up. And so I had known that the 12 steps were the solution. My friend, Michaela, remember Michaela?
Handsome.
Yep.
Yes.
So she had gone through this work, and I'd known her from the Cushion House.
Great girl.
Yeah, because I was in the Cushion House with her.
Uh-huh.
And then years later, she comes to WotC when I'm in there, like, for the 10th time. And she puts on a commitment. I'm like, what? She's like this person that I don't even know, like a totally different person.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew that the 12 steps worked, because I had saw what it did to her.
Yeah, you had an example.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I was
that's
going,
big.
right. So when I was
Huge.
going to New Hampshire,
So that mustard seed
right,
was planted.
right, exactly. And when I was going to New Hampshire, I knew. I was like, this is it. This is the answer. This
You
is
knew that
solution.
you were going to be okay.
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
Yep. I was like,
That's a great feeling.
yep. I was like, this is it. I
I
kept
remember
telling my
that
sister.
feeling myself.
She didn't even believe me. She was like, you're crazy. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
What are you on?
Yeah, like what they give
What'd
me.
you take?
Oh,
You
can
can't
I,
be high.
Can I tell you a little story about this? Because this is about the obsession. This is really
Absolutely.
good. So right before I leave, so when I go into, it was Arbor Fuller in Brookline.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm there, and
Arbor
apparently
Fuller.
I have heroin in my system, but I didn't do heroin. I was doing cocaine. And they were like, do you need Suboxone? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I've been using for 2 days. I just came out of a section. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, well, we're just going to prescribe it to you anyway. And I'm like, all
Really?
Right,
See,
yeah.
that's
That's
the
an asshole.
That's the problem with.
Just in case you need
Yeah,
it.
just in case you want to continue your life of misery.
Yeah.
We'll prescribe you
Here,
the drugs to do
we'll
it
just
with.
we'll start flushing,
Yeah.
and you can finish it when you leave, and just everything can go right down the fucking drain.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's
so
the issue with the
Yeah.
with the medical field. They
Disgusting.
have no clue. They are clueless.
either they're
Well,
clueless or
not
it's
all
all a
of them.
setup.
We gotta
Yeah,
be
yeah.
careful, because not everybody in the medical field.
No,
is
No.
clueless.
no.
Right.
There's
Clueless.
because I just went through it. I had to have my appendix out. Told them I'm in recovery, and the nurse Nurse Gary, shout out to you,
We had
hooked me up with a
I saw
bracelet.
that.
Hooked
Yeah,
me up with a
that was
bracelet
cool.
that said no opioids recovery.
right.
Because he said sometimes they will try and do like a preemptive strike against your pain
Right.
and hit me off with some yeah I mean, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to wake up and feel high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we had a nurse on here who knew quite a bit. She
Yes.
was very, very intelligent about recovery, and she was not in recovery.
Right.
Brian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
So
Yeah, so the
Anyway.
doctor was like, we're going to give it to you anyway. I'm like, fine, whatever. And the nurse, they're coming around. Oh, not even the nurse, the person like, oh, tell me it's time for your meds. And I'm like, can I just take it later if I need to? And they're like, no, you need to take this now or not. And I was like, all right, I'll be there. And like, knowing that I was going to the Plymouth House to get, like, this was literally the day that I went into the Plymouth House. I took that Suboxone,
yeah.
and I was high, and I hated it, but I had to do it because it was there, and they told
Yeah.
me that if I didn't take it
Because you
now.
had no
So
choice.
then
yeah.
after going through the steps, I'm like, wow, dude, there's the obsession in full mode.
Once someone
yeah.
breaks it down to you, breaks down
Right,
the disease
right,
model,
then you're like-
and you're like, whoa. See, I couldn't even stop myself from doing that.
Right,
That's right.
right. It all makes sense.
Yeah,
because my
that's right.
entire life, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I kept checking into psych hospitals. I'm like, there's something wrong with me. They would put me on all these medications and everything, and it would never work. Nothing ever worked. And I'm like, what is going on with me? And then when I saw the disease model at the Plymouth House,
Yeah.
they said, mind, you get an obsession that's a reoccurring thought that doesn't respond to reason. In the body, you have an allergy, which is an abnormal reaction to a substance because you're spiritually broken. I was like,
So they're trying to fix your spiritual malady with a chemical solution
right,
over and over. Why ain't this working?
right,
Because it's not what fixes it.
right,
It's not what helps it.
right.
I remember when it turned to fear. It was like, yeah, whenever I got the chance, I would do it with like no thought.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when I went to Turnabout the second time, I was like the second month in. You know what I mean? And I was just so broken down that I was afraid. So I went
Yes.
to court as a what they call a strength to with someone who was going to court that day. And I went in to use the bathroom, and I was just absent-mindedly playing with this hole in the wall in the Cambridge courthouse, and I pulled out a plastic bag full of pills at the courthouse, and I threw it in the toilet and flushed it down.
Yeah.
I was like, fear fear came over my body, and I reacted immediately and threw it away.
Well, the same thing happened the day we were playing softball.
Insane. Oh, I know.
And,
Yeah, I
and
remember.
you put your vest on. He reaches in his vest, and he pulls out, like, I don't know, fucking 100 empty heroin bags. He was like, oh, what do I do with these? I was like, throw them in the fucking trash, dude. Just throw them in the trash. Okay.
Well, that was, I just didn't want to get caught
Yeah.
and thrown out.
But someone else could have got thrown out, too, because they obviously didn't search your shit that well.
That's right. Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
But, yeah, like, and
That was the crazy.
once you learn what the problem is, it's very easy to work on it,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And being afforded the time.
Simple, maybe.
Being afforded
Hard.
the time to
Hard,
do,
but simple.
you know, up there, like, I know lots of people that have been up there and lots of successes, lots of people that just went up there and they knew they were going to get banged up, but,
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
At the Plymouth House?
yeah.
I always hear the successes. I
Yes.
haven't heard too many of the
I've
failures, but I'm
yeah.
sure there is.
yeah,
Seems like
there's
a good
some
place.
people
So
like
now
that.
you go up there, you go through the 12 steps.
Yeah, I go through steps 1 through 7.
Yep.
My notebook. I had 250 people that I resented, and
That's not bad.
right, my notebook was 10
Institutions.
notebooks and 8-hour read.
8-hour read.
Mm-hmm.
I actually I celebrate 17 years today.
Today,
And
I was going to bring that up at the end.
shout out,
Shout out to
shout
you.
out to my higher power, not
Right,
me.
your
I
higher
didn't.
power
I
to
ain't
you.
do it.
Yeah,
I didn't do it.
Right.
And I'm writing a fourth right now, and I have 123 names,
Wow.
and that's being in
Yep.
recovery, well, sobriety for 17 years. So
Yeah.
shit happens,
Right.
you know.
Yep. Yeah.
So now you
Oh,
8-hour read.
8-hour read. I remember, like, when I was going through that process, like, it was so crazy. I had this crazy spiritual experience where I was reading, praying, and talking, and, like, I was, like, looking at myself in a third-person view for, like, so long, and I had just read this. Me and this girl went outside to smoke a cigarette at the end. Her pupils were so dilated, like when you take ecstasy or something. And she was like, we were smoking a cigarette, and we're like, what just happened? I'm like, I don't even know, dude. The whole world was so big and overwhelming. It was like this big black sky, and it was like, I couldn't even breathe. I was like, I don't even know what's going on right now. This is crazy. I go back. It was insane. I go back into the room, and all the guys that used to be good looking, like through my whole stay, they were like good looking guys there, and they weren't even cute anymore. I was like, what the heck is going on here? And just everything, like, felt different and looked different, and I just went to sleep that night, and then they sent me off to
Hold on. Could we back up for a second?
Yeah.
Now, you had this experience when you were reading your fourth step?
yeah.
Okay.
So doing my fifth.
Doing your fifth.
Yep.
I see. That's pretty cool.
It
So
was
that was the
crazy.
spiritual awakening.
Right, but I didn't even know at the time. It was like
Right.
I didn't even know it was just what it was, you know?
Yeah.
And then afterwards I was like,
Beautiful.
it was just insane. This girl was like, she doesn't even know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Everything's just weird and different. And then the next morning they were sending me off to Dorchester, to the woman's house.
How house?
Yep.
Yep.
And
Great place.
yep. And I remember I needed to have like a $75. I need to have $75 for a train pass. I needed all this stuff, right? And I literally have, I've spent my life in institutions. I had no clue how to live life. So like leaving the Plymouth House, doing my fifth step, and then going on to further to going to a sober house where I have to pay rent and do all of this stuff and get a job and live life was like wicked scary and wicked overwhelming. And I remember just being so afraid. And I got there and there was like, you gotta get a job and you gotta have a train pass for the week or a month. It was like $75. I don't know if it was the month or the week. And I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. I don't even have cigarettes. I have nothing.
Yeah.
Like my sister dropped off like a bag of clothes, and
That place is extremely structured and
extremely structured.
the
And it's
success rate is very good.
Yes, and like, so I go there, and we were all on job search, and I was reading this book, and it was called Your Best You Now by Joel Osteen, and he was talking about giving everything to God and then trusting that he's going to take care of you, right? And so he said to like give everything that you have, and I didn't have much. I had food stamps and a pack of Newport 100s, and I went out to the city with the girls, and we went on job search, and I gave out all my Newports, and I bought food for people and gave the homeless stuff, whatever, and a couple of minutes later, I walked into a restaurant, got hired on the spot for exactly what I needed to make in order to pay rent. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, you know? Everyone's like, you're so lucky. I'm like, no, it's not luck. I'm like trying to tell them. They probably think I'm crazy. I'm like, I read this book and did it, like, whatever. Sound like a nut job.
But that's the thing. Once you're open-minded,
right?
Like, it's
and I tested
stuff
him.
happens.
I was like,
man.
I'm gonna test him and see if this is real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I trust you, God. Like,
and it was okay with the house and everything.
Right. Yeah, so I did that, and I got the job, and then I didn't have any clothes for this job. My roommate was an older woman, and she had nice clothes, but she was an older woman, and
Older clothes.
she dressed me to be a hostess, and it was so uncomfortable, and I had it was just nothing. It sucked.
So it was like old woman attire. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
And I took the train into work every day, and I worked, and then I was able to get my own clothes, and I went to the stores out in Southie and or Salvation Army, whatever. I ended up getting my own clothes, and that was better. But I remember being on the train and being wicked depressed and not knowing how I was gonna do this life thing, you know, because I'm 27 years old and I don't have anything, you know. Right. And I'm like, I don't know.
Had you even had a job?
No. Well, I've had jobs, but not for long periods of time.
Yeah.
It's just get by,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
And so I'm 27 years old, and I'm on this train, I'm going into work, and I'm working, and I'm just like, I don't even know how I'm going to live. I had so much depression and suicidal ideations, throughout pretty much the very beginning of my sobriety was like that. It was really hard for me.
No fear though, right?
Full of fear. Full of fear. Fear, doubt, insecurity. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could make it. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, you know.
But that's, we don't know why that's going on, but that's normal.
Right.
But we can't think of that at the time. Like your solution has been taken away. Mm-hmm. Your solution to life is gone. Now life is hitting you in the face at 100 miles an hour.
Different.
Literally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're just like, oh, what the.
And you haven't felt emotions in forever.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden you're feeling all this
comfortably numb
for.
It's like a raw nerve.
Yeah.
I remember it fondly. Really, it was something else. You know.
Yeah.
I
remember that, but also. I remember working Get Well job, which later on turned out to be a very good job. Working a Get Well job and just oh, how am I going to do this? And just all of a sudden wow, I think I'm going to be all right. Mm. I think I might be able to do this. Mm. And just the worry falls away, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying it's gone forever.
I don't remember a moment like that, but
no?
I'm sure there was one.
I mean, I had another one, when I was waiting to have my appendix out. I had just been through, a relationship and all this stuff, and I'm up there, and I'm completely alone in this big, giant room that would probably hold 30 beds. And I'm one little bed in the corner. And there's, one little light on, and it's, really dark, and I'm like, wow. I've been there for so many people, and now I'm here all by myself.
So many people would have been there for you.
Right.
You needed them.
Yeah, absolutely. But at that moment, I just that was the thought that occurred. Wow, this is really sad. But then that thought was supplanted right away with, no, I'm not alone.
Right.
Of course not.
And it was I could feel it. I could feel that I wasn't alone, that I was going to be okay. But I was, I'm worrying about pain medication. How am I going to feel? Blah, blah, blah. Because I've already been that route. Right. I had a skiing accident, hit the ground, got up. Oh, pain meds by a doctor. I'm good. And that was kiboshed by my son walking in the room. And he says, Dad, you can't take painkillers, right? And I was like, you're right. I can't. Higher power was just boom, always there. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy how that happens. So now you're depressed,
suicidal, not knowing how I'm going to live life. Just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And, the How House was very strict with, talking to men and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
guy contracts.
Right. I'm a month clean, sober, Like, and so.
But you didn't have no guy issues.
Right. I didn't. I need to talk to my baby daddy, like whatever. And so I didn't want to follow the rules. So this is the real deal that I can talk about now that my family knows the truth, and I'm 3 years. I made it. All right. You know what I mean? So I lied to them in the beginning. But, yeah. So there was these rules that I didn't want to follow, so I didn't follow them, and I got kicked out. But I pretty much made myself get kicked out by doing everything they told me not to do. And then I went to another home in Quincy, so I could pay my own. All I had to do was literally pay rent there, you know what I mean? So I paid rent, went to that sober house, lots of people getting messed up. I just kept doing my step work. I was on step 9 at that point, and making amends. So I was doing my step work, still going to work, doing what I had to do, and it was snowing out. And I remember walking to Quincy Center every day. I'm like, when is this ever going to end? You know, it just felt like forever. Getting on the train, going to work, walking back at night. Like, it was just like, you know, just to live, just to survive, like, just to have $1, literally $1 in my pocket, you know. Most of the time, I don't even know how I made it, you know. Yeah. And
sounds really familiar.
So crazy. And then so at this time, my father is really sick with cancer, and I knew this, and I was in denial about it, and I wasn't even 90 days clean at this point, and I got a phone call that he had a week left to live.
Oh,
and he's in Oklahoma.
Oh.
Right. So I'm in a sober house. I need to go to Oklahoma. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be there. I don't even, I just want to run, you know?
Yeah, fear.
Yeah.
Right. And I hadn't run the whole time. When I was suicidal and I had gone through all this time where I just want to run away, I didn't run away. I kept going forward. So this came and I wanted to run, but I couldn't run. There was nowhere to run to, you know? And my cousin gave me the money to get on a bus, and I got on a bus, and I took a bus to Oklahoma. And the whole way up to Oklahoma, I was literally praying, because I had found out in my 4th step that I was a selfish person, and every decision I made was based on me, regardless of how it was going to affect anyone around me. And I didn't want to be that anymore. I wanted to be there for my dad. I wanted to be there for him and not make it about me.
Yep.
I make everything about me.
Yeah,
you know
we
what
all
I mean?
do.
And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be there. And so I literally just prayed the whole entire time. And the 3rd step prayer, like, I literally just kept praying the whole ride. It was insane. And I get there, and my dad used to be a big guy. He was strong, like, just, you know, that was like, he was my mom, my dad, my whole life, my only parent. But because of my addiction, the last 5 years of his life, I just hated him and was really mean to him, you know. And so I'm looking at my dad, and I go into the house, and he's just really skinny, and his fingers are really small, and his legs are really small, and he's bald, and he's sick, you know. And I was there with him for his last week. I read the Bible to him. I prayed with him. We talked. I told him I was sorry for some things, and he said it didn't matter anymore. All that's left is love and forgiveness. And the whole family came on. It was Valentine's. All of his kids. He has 7 kids. My other sister drove up from Plymouth to be there with us. Everyone was there. We had a good time, and my dad, you know, was in the bed or whatever. And then everyone was gone, and it was just me and my brother and my dad. And it was just me and my dad at first. I was reading the Bible to him, and he was just, like, so messed up, you know, kept getting up and down. He didn't know what to do. It was like very
so
end of
he
his
was
life.
basically on hospice.
Yep, he was on hospice.
And they probably
I
had him
called
on
hospice.
medication.
Yeah, he was on tons of medication. I called hospice, told him that he wasn't doing good, because he kept saying, give me more meds. I'm in so much pain. He was literally crying to me, and I was like, I can't give you more meds. They tell me I can't, you know. So I called hospice. They were supposed to come, and I looked up, and it was just me and my dad, and I didn't want to be alone with my dad, so I went and got my brother in the other room, and we sat in the room with him. And then my dad stood up to walk from the bedroom to, like, the bed to the toilet, like, the, you know, the handicap thing that we had, and everything just went in his whole entire body, and he literally just died in me and my brother's arms. And I was, like, freaking out. I'm like, what are we gonna do? We gotta do something. There's something that we have to do something, you know, like, going crazy, even though I knew this was gonna happen, you know. And he died in me and my brother's arms. And then hospice finally showed up, and they cleaned him up, and I remember being in the room with him alone, and I was just, like, sobbing, and I was so sad, and I kept saying sorry. And then I went outside, and then they took his body away, and I totally lost it, because they were taking his body away, because now that means he's gone forever, you know. And so they took his body, and I just lost it. And I remember freaking out, and my family's like, you need to go to a meeting. And I'm like, it's not about going to a meeting. This has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. Like, I don't know how to live. I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? I can't even breathe, you know. And I met this guy. My dad was a really big part of AA. They used to call him Boston Bill in Oklahoma. And I met this guy, and he talked about Boston Bill. And so I knew he knew that my dad. So I went in only because he knew my dad, you know? And he told me, like, the meaning of life, and he was, like, going on and on about all kinds of stuff, man. And I just listened to him. And then I just felt God inside of me. And it was just, like, I was so calm and relaxed. And I went home and went to sleep finally because I had been up for 24 hours. And we put on a service out in Oklahoma, and then we came home, and I was homeless again, but my grandmother let me stay with her because I wasn't going back to the sober house, you know, and I stayed with her, and then we put on a service back home, and I wrote a tribute to my father, and I was there when it mattered the most, and I said the tribute, and it was beautiful, and I didn't cry, and I just stood there, and then my apartment came up. I got an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, and
this is back here.
Back in Plymouth.
What occurred, what I think of is that's a beautiful story, actually.
Yes.
Right, because God, you know, I was really upset for a while, but if you think about this, it was always the three of us growing up, right? Just me and my dad and my brother. And then the last week of his life, in the last moments of his life, it was the three of us. And God gave that to me.
And you were able to apologize.
Yep, and I was able to be there. And I was able to be there when it mattered the most. And even though there was awful things said and I have some regrets, I was there. And he saw me. Yep, and I was sober.
Awesome.
Yep, and I didn't take.
And he had already told you that it was all forgiven.
Yes.
But
all that's left is
us as addicts and alcoholics, we need more.
I held on to this for years, like for 2 years.
Yeah.
I literally was so sad and full of anger and mad at myself.
That's the grief process. It's like disbelief, anger, acceptance.
Yeah. Like graveside amends to my mom and grandparents, got no response.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I'll bang these out. They'll be easy. I would rather have them told me to kick rocks or, go shit in your fist or something, but I got nothing, And it was
shit in your fist.
Yeah. It was tough, man.
Yeah. I needed that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Get rid of those other ones. Get some endorphins going. So now, what is life like today?
Today, I have a little boy, and I got him pregnant when I was 4 months clean and sober, and I went through so much depression when I was pregnant, and I just kept pushing through, and I have a little boy, and I have full custody. DCF's never been involved. I've actually called DCF and given them my phone number and my address, and I'm like, come in anytime you want.
Hey, I know we got history, but
I wanted them. I literally, when the baby was born, I gave them the first poop, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, dude, I'm just here.
Here's his mercomium. Would you like to test it?
Would you like to test it? Right. So, and with the when I had the baby, I had to have a C-section again. I was in labor for 50 hours. Nothing worked. They told me that because I was trying to have a regular birth because I didn't want Percocets.
Yes.
And I had to have the C-section. They gave me the epidural. I was high. They told me I wouldn't be high. They lied. I was high. I hated it. And then I didn't take any all I did was ibuprofen and Tylenol. I didn't and I got through that, and I was like, wow, thank you, God, because I was afraid of the obsession hitting once the medication
Imagine
was
that,
hitting.
Tylenol and ibuprofen work.
Right, and it's better.
Imagine
it's
that.
better because I can move around. It's just better.
That's what I did for this, alternate every 3 hours.
Yep, me too. And then they had liquid one.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah, it works really well.
When you're in the obsession and
you want
the phenomenon of craving, it's kick it in.
Yeah, right. Give me more. And and my 8-year-old. So I have an 8-year-old little girl. I'm still 3 years later, still in the court system fighting for rights for her. But we have an amazing relationship. She loves me in the beginning.
Cool.
She didn't want me. She pushed me away, and now she wants me.
Yep.
And
I see the pictures, and I really appreciate you because I know you said tonight was a night that you would have got to spend with her.
Yes.
Oh, and you gave it up to be here.
Well, thank you
so
much.
Well, this was the thing. I gave it up to be here, and then her father called me and said she was going skiing, and
You gave it up because you were going to have the weekend.
Right. I gave it up because I was going to have the weekend with her, and I was like, okay, God, I'm going to do this for you. Honestly, I'm like, I'll just do it for him because whatever.
Yep.
And then that happens. He's going to go away for the weekend, so then I'm really sad. But then it ended up working out really well. God is so good. He, like, puts together these little things, and it all makes sense because now I can have her for my son's birthday, which I wasn't going to have her for.
So now she gets to spend
Oh, wow.
birthday with her brother.
Right,
That's
and
cool.
be there. So God
Nice.
did all of that. God knew what was
Right.
going on. Way
His
before I
plan
did. Right.
is so much better than
Oh,
ours.
Right, and it's just like a little glimpse of it.
Yeah,
So keep
but
trusting me.
we'll buck it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Is this gonna? I don't know if this is
Right.
gonna work. Is this
Right.
really gonna work? I don't like this.
Right.
We don't have to like his plan,
Right.
but it's way better than ours.
Absolutely.
Way
Yep.
better.
Yep. And then also, I have an amazing relationship with a daughter that I gave up for adoption. Her mother. I have still not had a visit with my daughter that I gave up because I'm not ready yet. She doesn't know she's adopted. She'll find out this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Me and the
wow.
mother, we talk every day. She sends me pictures. She's like,
That's
amazing.
awesome.
She loves
So
me.
the 8-year-old was the one that was with the grandparents.
Yep.
And then
And now I have her half the time, but I'm still fighting for legal
Yep.
rights. And then, then the one I gave up for adoption, she is with the mother and she's happy and healthy. She has a beautiful life, and
way better than you could have ever
Ever.
done. So
ever.
it worked out.
Right.
So that worked out.
And me and the mom love each other. And then I have a son who I take care of all the time. Me and his father, we co-parent, and it's beautiful. I'm a Sunday school teacher at my church. I started a group
Nice.
for moms in recovery. It's called Recovering Moms Helping Moms. All it is moms in recovery sitting down in a circle and talking and supporting and loving each other. And we have resources, local resources for the women if they need anything. I partner with my faith community church because they help with whatever we need. Do you know what I mean?
And there's childcare there.
Yep, childcare, which
So
is amazing.
Just
Yeah.
okay, take a break.
And they're paid and they're professional and they're certified, you know.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
And
Yep.
this is in Plymouth.
Plymouth, 29 Carver Road.
All right, I got the link on the
all right,
description right there.
perfect.
Click on it.
Yep.
Nice.
And I'm an amazing mom and I'm happy and I have my own apartment and I have a car and I clean houses. Start my own little business.
See, imagine that.
Fantastic.
Right.
There is no limit. There is no
limit.
limit to what we can achieve.
Give up
Right.
one thing for everything,
We give up one thing for everything.
or give up everything for one thing.
Yep.
And I suffer so she never has to.
There you go.
Yes.
Mm.
That
Thank
was
you so much.
that was extremely powerful.
That was a
Um,
fantastic
and if
story.
there's people out there that didn't cry, there's people commenting. I'm sitting, so it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. and
Perfect.
Very powerful.
I'm grateful for it,
Beautiful.
and
Thank
I
you, God.
really appreciate you coming on here, and
Yeah, so do I.
that was amazing.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks a lot. And congratulations to Chris once
Yes.
again.
oh yeah,
17 years.
shout out to the Geo Dizzle.
All right, so LOLTerms.com, the Life on Life's Terms podcast. And that's a wrap.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody have a happy new year, and stay safe.
Stay safe.
Peace.
Peace.
Good job. I have to pee so bad.